And I'm wondering if there's any way you could find that record that I need. It's an internal memo that you guys might have that I could see right now. Could you send someone to talk to me?
This is Susan Bassi, and I thought I would take you to Bakersfield, California, not to address cop watching issues and issues related to police, but to address the courts where we don't have cameras. Because we're covering a story involving a family law case, a divorce involving a farmer from Bakersfield. And last week, the judge presiding over that case, Judge Schuett, issued an order that we call a hometowning order, and that means that the judge was protecting local attorneys in their area, otherwise known as hometowning. And we're investigating that case by going out in the community and talking to everybody outside the court. We're looking at how that farming business does business, who they know, and we're looking at the real estate. And we're also looking at what the community in general looks like, the people who will be the jurors, and the people who are going through the criminal court system and how that works out for them. That means looking at bail bonds, looking at court-related services, and it also means talking to people out on the street.
No, thanks. You want to know what?
Why are you taking pictures of the business here?
I'm standing on a sidewalk. I didn't say it.
So you're also photographing this building that I work at, so I just want to know, can I help you with something and why are you taking pictures? That's all.
Okay, but you know the law on recording in public, right?
I understand that. I just want to know why you're recording that.
Well, we don't always know why we're recording. I'm getting some B-reel because I'm in Bakersfield for a while.
Okay.
But what did you think the worst thing I could do recording would be?
No, I'm just curious. That's all.
Not just police, but people in general are still grossly uncomfortable with being recorded in public. They forget that they're recorded by the government almost every single day, that Google is recording their homes and their businesses. And so it's always interesting to me when I'm just simply out recording on the street how much that seems to bother people who will be jurors and voters in a community, people who are connected to the lawyers and the legal system in a community as well, and also people who are connected to police officers who are not ever very fond of us recording them.
Hi. I am a reporter.
Okay.
I did a records request here a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I got the records production, and I'm wondering if there's any way you could find that record that I need. It's an internal memo that you guys might have that I could see right now. Could you send someone to talk to me?
This is an example of how hometowning works when journalists are concerned. I was an out-of-town journalist, and the police officer followed his informal policies and procedures and told me that to get my record, I had to fill out a form. Whenever the government requires you to do something, give your name, fill out a form, or do something that you shouldn't have to do in order to get public records, it's a prior restraint on speech. And if you are a hometown journalist, the information would be gotten for you without a form. Cameras are still not permitted in California courtrooms, and in courthouses the debate still rages on, and we continue to test that. So when you go to a new community and you don't know anything about the lawyers, the judges, or the police officers, a good place to start is a newspaper. And if the community you're in is lucky enough to have a newspaper, here's how you might read it. You look for the headlines and the culture in the community. You read the legal notices, which provides revenue to the newspaper. And you look for the headlines and you look for what national news they're looking at. But mostly, you look for the advertisers. And you look to see for local restaurants and businesses that you can support when you're in the town, because those are the local businesses where you sometimes find lawyers and judges.
I have a really important question.
Yes, ma'am.
Admittedly, whenever I go to a town where I may not have very many sources, or may not be benefiting from hometowning myself, I always ask around for firefighters. Firefighters don't beat us up for recording them, they don't arrest us, and they don't put videos up online of firefighters behaving badly. They put fires out at our homes and they know a lot about our businesses, And they also always know where the best places in town to eat are. They know where the police officers eat, and where the lawyers and the judges eat as well, even when those places are on the other side of the tracks. Bakersfield is still rural enough that you can be stopped by a train in the middle of the day when you're trying to cross to the other side of town. I can imagine that might make some people late for court, but there is a very definite difference between one side of those tracks and the other when you're in Bakersfield, California. If you've ever been arrested and you need a lawyer, where do you go? It used to be that the telephones worked and we had yellow pages. Now our telephones don't work, and divorce attorneys don't exactly plaster billboards all around town. For the most part, they work through networking and secret referral services through nonprofits and other ways that you would not really expect. And that can result in hometowning, meaning out-of-area lawyers may not do as well. If you're poor, you will be appointed a public defender, and based on how the public defender's office looked funded in Bakersfield, California, Kern County, it doesn't look like you might be getting a very good, well-funded defense. The sheriffs in Kern County, they guard the courthouse, and they hang out with prosecutors and judges more than they hang out with public defenders, which may be why only one sheriff's car was parked outside the public defender's office when we went by. Courthouses in California are not exactly known for their food selection, so I was a little bit excited to find a local food truck planted outside the courthouse on the steps. I thought I might do a records request, but I also asked around for some recommendations, and all the police officers, lawyers, and judges I spoke to, even the court clerks, spoke very highly about this food truck. And what a brilliant idea this is to put a local private business right on the steps of the courthouse that everybody can support.
I got something exciting for you. Ready?
What's up?
So I pulled all the police, all the sheriffs, all the court people, and guess what?
What's up?
You guys are hands down winner for the food. They were all very excited about your
Yeah,
truck.
no,
Excited
yeah.
to get.
And one thing that binds us all is food. And we all get excited when local businesses do food well, and we can all agree on that. We all seem to cheer on those Main Street businesses. But that's not always the case when it comes to government offices. And we've been getting a lot of complaints about the customer service and the products being served up around that courthouse, especially for court users or people who are directed to family court services. And so we decided to go over to the district attorney's office and see what was going on related to those complaints. There have been a lot of complaints coming out of Kern County about how the way families are treated related to family court. And this is the district attorney's office, which now houses victim services. And so every door seems to lead to this office. And yet we're hearing complaints that the lawyers and the judges that are paid by the taxpayers are not providing the services that we expect that they are. If you've been following the United States Supreme Court news lately, you may know that they're considering looking at the issue of losing your Second Amendment rights if you're subjected to a restraining order. And we're looking at a number of cases where restraining orders are being used to violate people's First Amendment rights, including the right to access public court proceedings. And we're also looking at how these courts are going to continue to manage cameras in courthouses in order to provide transparency to everyone.
Hi. So, you know what the purple's for, right?
For domestic violence?
Yeah. So do you know the judicial bench guide that came out yesterday?
No.
You have a judge that was on that panel. And so all the people that have been fighting for coercive control to be included in domestic violence are excited about that. So I just drove down, got it last night.
Just like police officers have formal and informal training, so do judges. And in this case, 2 judges wrote a bench guide to train all the judges in California how to deal with family law cases when DV issues are alleged by one or both of the parties involved in a divorce, custody, or intimate partner situation. But the page that is the most interesting in this is the page related to remote appearances. And it says this: it was written by Judge Susan Gill of Kern County and by Judge Mark Uhas of Los Angeles. And it says, a party, witness, or support person may appear remotely at a hearing on a petition for domestic violence restraining order. Each trial court must develop local rules and instruction for remote appearances, which must be posted on its website. A party, witness, or support person need not articulate a specific reason for remotely appearing. This law was enacted because domestic violence victims have voiced that the courthouse is the most anxiety-inducing place that they must go while pursuing safety for themselves, their children, and their family. Petitioners that deal with trauma and anxiety can become confused or frustrated by the unfamiliar process, or even worse, they endure continuous harassment or intimidation by the abuser. These issues deprive domestic violence victims and families access to justice at a time of crisis and of the safety they seek and deserve. The problem is, this doesn't just include people who are seeking to access the courts related to family law. It also includes every litigant that has to go through our court system these days.
I'm a journalist. I'm covering that issue. Can you tell me, I didn't know, like, what this is. Does the DA run this? Does the courts run this whole thing? What is this?
It's the district attorney's office.
This is the district attorney's
It's
office.
part of the district attorney's.
So it's all the victim services that's run through the DA's office.
Yes.
So it's the same as every other county. You guys just have a little fancier building.
Judge Mark Uhas wrote that bench guide with Judge Susan Gill, and when I made a media request last week to oversee a hearing that he was involved in where both the parties were claiming to be victims of domestic violence, he just simply ignored my media requests, meaning he probably wasn't following his own policy that he had just written for all judges in the state of California.
Gill and Judge is the judge from Kern County, and Judge Uhas is the judge from LA that were both on the report.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the DA's office. I didn't know that. I'm going by signs. That's what happens when you're old and you have glasses and you just pull over. Thank you. Hey, how's that sandwich shop over there? Really good. It smelled good. I'm going to go there. Thank you.
And when you're investigating a community, even if it's just related to a divorce case involving a farmer, you got to go to the school districts as well, because the school districts are a reflection of how children in a community are being taught. It's also a reflection of the culture of the administrators who often interact with the judges, because we often see judges holding special educational seminars for teachers and students, and we want to know exactly what those judges are teaching our children, because sometimes judges aren't always honest about how things work.
Yeah.
Down the street is Luigi's. It's been for 100 years.
The Italian? Okay.
And for all the people who do the hard work and the heavy lifting in Bakersfield, California, thanks for all the tips. We're going to continue on our investigation of the farmer, private judging, and how that's all related to the midnight shovel breeders.
So use the Brian Adams CD. It cuts like a knife.